I'm Ryan Milliken from Hardway Performance, and you're listening to the Diesel Power Podcast.
This is Jaron Holder from Holderdown Performance.
This is Anthony Range from XDP.
I'm Dmitri Miller with No Zone Diesel.
I'm Drew with D&J Precision Machine.
I'm Pinky.
And you're listening to the Diesel Power Podcast.
Diesel Power Podcast.
Diesel Power Podcast.
And you're listening to the Diesel Power Podcast.
The one and only Diesel Power Podcast.
So, Adam, we want to welcome you to the Diesel Power Podcast. Look forward to chatting with you about trucks and fabrication and racing.
Thanks, Pat. It's an honor to be on the show. I'm excited. It is quite an honor to be considered for this.
Oh, no problem at all. We've been following you for a while and build some really cool stuff, and you got a cool story with your truck, so we're just going to jump right in.
All right.
So tell us a little bit about AA Motorworks.
Well, AA Motorworks came about with a few different company names before this, but in a nutshell, I worked for a gentleman, and then I bought the company from him. It was just a regular service and repair shop for all makes and models. And when I bought the company from him, took it over, I pretty much branched off into calling myself a, self-proclaimed Subaru and Cummins expert specialty shop. It's went from there. So far, year and some change in business, and so far so good.
What's it been like jumping into the business owner role and taking a passion you have for vehicles and making it profitable?
That's a very good question. I found it to be a big reality check after the first few months being in business, between paying quarterly sales tax and, all the extra overhead involved, hazmat fees just to store the, excess liquids and stuff. And just there's just so much behind the scenes that I was somewhat prepared for, but it didn't sink in until you actually you see the money leaving your account. You're like, wow, this is a big undertaking.
Yeah.
But being able to unlock these doors and roll up my roll-up door every morning, and seeing the fruits of my labor and being able to interact with the customers the way I want to, in the way that they should be treated, it's that's what makes this job all worthwhile. And fixing their cars and trucks correctly as well,
Yeah.
Of course.
Now, every guest we've had on here, they have a story about how they get into the industry. Before you started AA Motorworks and jumped in, what did you do prior to that, or what led you to that point?
Well, the whole story behind me is ever since I was, 8, 9 years old, I had some neighbors who lived up the street that would always work on their Hondas and what other rice rockets they had, and I just got a real liking into what they were doing. They were 10 years older than me, and I'm just hanging out with some guys from high school that were wrenching on their cars. They're doing street racing. They're doing all the stupid stuff back in the mid 90s, and that's what started the love for cars and trucks. And I started collecting magazines that would stack 20 feet high in the sky if you were to put them all end to end. And, it went from there. I graduated high school, joined the Air Force, and I did that 4 years as an active reservist, and then I did 8 years. Literally just got out as a weekend warrior reservist, and really got to hone my skills and build some vehicles while being in the military. And I was an avionics technician, so chasing wiring and learning how to wire things properly, and learning how to read wiring diagrams and all that stuff, and troubleshooting has all led to how I operate every day at the shop. From everything from greeting customers with respect, and list goes on and on, running a tight ship, staying clean as possible, keeping the shop tidy. So yeah, that's what I did. I also worked at a Subaru shop when I went as a reservist. And I also worked on trucks every once in a while on the side. Worked on my own truck, which had many stages over life, but now she's a 10-second rig that I'm proud of and reliable for the most part, you know. So that's kind of the background of me. There's more. I've also dabbled in fabrication on the side. I have a lot of buddies that are all gearheads, so you know, I go over their house and they're building, you know, King of the Hammers rigs, and they're building, you know, rat rods, and you know, I see them on the TIG torch, and I see them on the bandsaws and the sanders and the grinders, and you know, I wanted to get my hands dirty. I always, you know, dreamt of learning how to you know, stick two pieces of metal together and make it look pretty. So yeah, that, you know, and then I just, you know, I started to practice on some scrap at their place, you know, and went from there. That's where I kind of got hooked, and I started thinking, maybe how can I improve my truck? Because I was there hanging out. I had Betty there, and I developed a wastegate kit that kind of started the whole AA Motorworks, AA engineering company.
And I really want to talk more about your truck, because when we first met, as I can tell I'm getting older as I refer to it to back in the day, but like way back in the day on Cummins Forum. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I remember, gosh, I think you had your truck when I just had signed up back in 2008 or somewhere around there. What your truck you got, and how did it evolve, you know, from the time you got it up until, you know, when you developed this wastegate kit, and even farther than that to where it's at now?
Well, I got Betty in 2007, summer 2007. I wanted to buy a diesel truck out of necessity to tow around my STI race car. So the 2007, that was a tricky year that I really never did too much homework on, and I had the opportunity to buy a brand new 5.9 07, and I went to the local dealer, and I test drove Betty, and she had like 10 miles on her, and I was just like, and I fell in love. And it wasn't until like about a week later I realized, wow, I bought a truck that has all this new emissions crap on it, and there's no aftermarket for this thing. So I was like, how can I was already, you know, a week into it, I already wanted to buy, you know, things and try to pump her up. Mm-hmm. So, you know, time went on, and, you know, I hopped on the Cummins forum, and all the other guys that just bought 6.7s were all, we all, you know, conversed and started threads about how to, you know, put an aftermarket exhaust, and, you know, what other kind of upgrades we can do. And I actually was one of the first guys to beta test a DPF delete that was made by H&S, but I forget the company's name, but they had a different name before H&S. In any event, it was a very, very crude system. It had this resistor box that had speaker wire coming out of it that you had to T-tap into all the EGT sensors in order to fool it and not let the truck go into limp mode. Luckily, my truck never went into limp mode. And then slowly after that, you know, Edge came out with the tuner that cleared the codes as you turned the key, every time you turned the key on. Bully Dog came out with a PMT that ran pretty nasty, and a lot of guys loved the tunes on those. Yeah, and then it went from there. Finally, the Smarty came out, and I rocked that just with a 5-inch turbo back. This is like, you know, you're talking 2008 to 2010, 11 is when I just, I'm going to screw this one up. Yeah, 2010 to 2011 is, that whole era, I just left it stock. I was towing, I was doing racing with my car. And then I got deployed. I went for 6 months. I deployed to the Middle East, and I left the truck on base with some buddies for them to just take care of her while I was away and fire her up, make sure the battery doesn't die, and just warm her up every once in a while. And while I was away, I got in contact with Ryan Milliken back when he was still active duty military, and he was working on the side at Suncoast. And we came up with a plan. I set up a transport for the truck and had it picked up, sent over to Ryan from California to Florida while I was away, and he got digging into her and put a GTX 42R Garrett turbo, bigger injectors, and his custom tuning, and a Mega 68 from Suncoast. And I was so antsy to get back, and once I got back, I got a plane ticket out, flew away to Florida, hung out for like a week, and then I got to meet all the guys there. The truck was we never dynoed it, but we were suspecting around like 650 horse, and I was ecstatic. Drove her all the way back to Cali, and I can keep going. I can keep going and going, and I hate to toot my own horn, but I love telling my story because I'm very passionate about this whole industry. I fell in love with diesels just because these motors, you can it's amazing what you can do. You look at you can look at some motors wrong from other manufacturers, and they'll spin a rod bearing or blow a head gasket, but these Cummins, they just keep on going. There's something to be said about that.
Oh, absolutely. And people want to hear that story. We all share the passion for it, and we have that moment, where it captivates us. And I remember on Cummins Forum seeing that build thread, and I would check it every day, and Ryan would post the pictures, and he would chime in. And I remember that truck, and for me, when I got hooked, I think it was 2007 or 8. I saw Dmitri race a truck at Truck Fest, and I had no idea what diesels could do or that people even raced them. But yeah. I remember seeing that go down the track, and I think it was somewhere in the 10s. Mm-hmm. I was hooked. And then it was Diesel Power magazines every month. It was Cummins Forum. So, that process that we go through to get into these trucks is awesome, and that's what makes all these stories, unique. And I remember when you got the truck back, I think you took it out and you raced it, but it's gone a lot farther since then to where it is now.
It has. Yeah. When I got back, I met up with some friends that I was deployed with, and they were all excited for me as well to see what this truck will do. So we went up to Sacramento Raceway, and we hit some passes, consistent 12.5, 12.6s on little 60% over injectors. A lot of pulse width. We're talking, 3,000 microseconds from, Ryan's Lemonade stuff in its early years. And the way it is now, it's evolved. I went through a few different set of injectors from DDP, and I ended up with these 5.9s, 0304, since the spray angles match it. 0304 5.9 injectors with a 5.9 ECM, and the reason is, I guess, the spray pattern is the same. 146 degree 8-hole injectors or nozzles match up pretty well with the 6.7 bowls, piston bowls. So that's what Lenny and his mad skills whipped me up some nasty injectors, and with some tuning from a local guy here, Les from Silver Bullet, and it was a collaboration between Les and Ryan and us trying to figure out what the heck's going on my truck, and we finally cranked out about 920 on a local dyno here at Left Coast Diesel, and that's pretty much where it sits. It sits with I did a 47 swap just like you did, where you had a 47 or 48, but with a PCS valve body, 80 millimeter Borg, all the fixings. You got the ATS dual pumps and all the supporting mods to make it happen. Fast 220 pump, all that good stuff. And yeah, I mean, I've went out to Siskiyou Diesel's event last summer up in Oregon, Medford, Oregon, and screwed up my first pass, and then next pass, I left at 10 psi less, about 15 pounds, hooked a bit, slipped, hooked, and then I felt the power, and I was like, okay, this is actually a good pass. I actually never felt the truck hook because I was launching too high in boost. So went out to a 1077 and 127, and I was like, where the hell did this mile per hour come from? Like I'm on 420. I'm on stock size 420s, or the stock 31 inch, 32 inch 420s, and then I decided, well, I want to see what I'll do on slick. So I got myself a custom set of Bogart wheels with some Hoosier 18s and went 1060. This is on a 1060 at 127 at SAC, and this is on stock short block, stock cam. The head has been worked by Hazley's a little bit. It's fire ringed. Has upgraded springs and push rods, push tubes. But I'm happy as can be because I can still drive this truck home. I drive her home 2-3 times a week just to enjoy it.
How long did it take to dial in the PCS tune for the track from, say, the base file to where you felt the shift points were perfect and everything was just ready to go?
That is an excellent question. I probably have, call it 40, 45, 50 hours of, couch tuning and on-road tuning with the PCS. Ryan initially set me up via remote. He logged into my laptop and loaded a base file from Florida through the internet. It's awesome stuff. That this technology we have nowadays is amazing. So he loaded in this base file. He kind of walked me through, the shifts. He says, don't touch the line pressure, leave that alone. But here, this is how you adjust lockup. This is how you adjust each shift point. This is the margins you want to keep between the upshift and downshift. And it took a lot. Factoring in that I'm only running off of the output shaft speed sensor, which calculates the mile per hour, and throttle input, which is the TPS. It was interesting. I learned it. I love it. That valve body kicks ass. I mean, it hits 4K and it shifts now. But yeah, it took a bit, especially going from the 420s to the slicks. It's a 2-inch drop. You got to change some things around. You got to do some calculations to figure out where to even start a base trans tune. It's kind of like starting over almost.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it took a bit.
I just wanted to throw that out there because I know it took me probably 80 hours. And I don't think I ever truly nailed it, but it's really fun when you do the 47 swap if you use like the PCS controller to be able to make it do exactly what you want. There's no limitations. And that's good and it's bad because you can destroy a transmission pretty quick, or you can get it right where you want it for, your charger setup, your fueling, your tires, everything. And that's a really cool feature.
You bring up a great point with the charger setup, and it's a huge thing that I found. And you can tune each gear to stay on top of the turbo, especially with your stall, what stall you're running. You can stay on the upper end, so you're not snuffing it out. You're not lugging it and throwing a bunch of smoke behind you when you can have a nice clean shift, and it'll fall right back into a nice RPM range. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing feature of that swap, especially on those big single chargers and the daily driving part. That was one of the hardest for me, was trying to get that right. Stay on top of a big single, not lug it, but have the response in the RPM there when you just want to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, and especially tuning stop and go traffic, the 40, 50 mile per hour range where it wants to shift into overdrive and it's too low to be doing that, because if you got a big single and you got some big sticks in there, it's not fun. I live in a sensitive area, and I try to stay under the radar when I drive my truck for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, that brings up another thing we've probably both seen in the industry from those early days, the 07, 08, 09 days to now. How have you seen the industry change, not just as an enthusiast, but as a business owner, as it pertains to, say, 6.7s and the newer trucks?
It's been just in perspective, looking back at everything and where it started. The amount of support, the amount of companies, the amount of everything has changed so much there, and for the better. I never would have ever dreamed that you could do custom logging and change every little parameter of that 6.7 21 CM 2100 ECM. I've never seen it. The future's so bright. I think with a little bit more, research on the CM 2100, we'll see higher RPM. Because right now you're limited to like 3,800. I think we're gonna be able to see 5K soon. There's so much. It's so much easier to make them faster.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the unnecessary mods. There's a lot of unnecessary parts that don't need to be put on in order to make a stock turbo efficient.
Oh yeah, and even like with your truck, it has a stock bottom end, right?
Oh yeah. It might be a ticking time bomb. So far, she seems happy. Doesn't make any abnormal noises. No blow by. I know the consequences, but I believe in keeping the truck in the higher RPMs to keep the bottom end happy.
But it's a testament to how far the parts have come, and the software and the tuning is. At one point people said not to make over 600 on these trucks, or 650, or right. 700. You're guaranteed to put rods through the oil pan and all over the concrete, and to be able to make 850, 900, 920, and have the hard parts set up for that is a testament to how far it's come.
Oh, it has. There's no need to even run stroker pumps. I've never would have even thought in 2007, 2008 you can stack two pumps on top of each other. It's like that kind of stuff is amazing. It's awesome what the industry has become.
Oh, definitely. And I've having followed you for a while in your company, I know a lot of the cool stuff you build. But for our listeners out there, what are some products that you have, for these trucks, and what kind of kits do you have?
So, I have kits that I don't try to. I wouldn't say everyone is gonna be interested in them in the sense, because I make parts that that people really want for the high quality, good material parts. I don't mean that in a bad way. That might have came off wrong. I guess I hold myself to a certain standard. So if I'm going to release products, I want them to be up to the same par.
Mm-hmm.
I sell second gen swap kits for the 6.7s and also the 5.9s. But they all consist of 304 stainless or 6061 T6 aluminum I have countless numbers of hours of test fitting and, going back to the drawing board and figuring out, placement of sensor flanges and stuff like that. I also have blow-off valve tubes that I love. I love these blow-off valves that TurboSmart has released. They work great. So I sell a boost tube for the second gen swaps, either for the third gen or the fourth gen up to 2012. I'm working on 13 to 15 stuff right now, for 13 plus stuff. I also, I'm a full service shop. I can do performance work, but I mainly sell a lot of boost tubes, intakes, downpipes. I've sold plenty of kits with a lot of happy customers, so that makes me happy.
Definitely, and you brought up a really good point about the blow-off valve. And some diesel enthusiasts, including myself, could be confused or not know why it's so important. But if you could tell us, anyone that owns a 5.9 or 6.7, you've got a bigger single on your truck, why do you need to think about having a blow-off valve to protect that charger?
That is a great question, and it's a big misconception between people that I guess really they think that the blow-off valves cause more problems when I haven't found that to be the issue or the case. The blow-off valves are there to protect when you are getting off the throttle on a hard pull. You're at 60 pounds, 65 pounds of boost, and you chop the throttle, and there's still all that air that's still inside the intercooler, charge piping, and where does it go in those 2 to 5 seconds that you let off that pedal? It's going to spin that compressor wheel backwards, and that these turbo wheels are only meant to spin one way. So you're causing a lot of disturbance, inside that compressor housing and also on the bearings of the turbo. So the blow-off valve releases that pressure, and it does it in a very innovative way that TurboSmart has developed, where it runs a very light spring inside the blow-off valve hat or diaphragm. And what happens is there's a solenoid hooked up to it, and it allows full boost pressure to keep that valve shut. And there's a good microcontroller that you mount inside the cab that senses when you let go of that throttle at a certain sensitivity, whatever you set it up as, it releases the pressure out of the top of the blow-off valve, and the pressure that's still inside the charge piping blows that valve open and relieves the pressure, that boost pressure, and ultimately will, give you more longevity more reliability out of your turbo.
Yeah. Yeah, so, that's a really good point, because these chargers aren't cheap. On any brand or whatever it might be, if it's a larger single, a guy's probably into it, $2,000 or more. And it's so easy, when you're going full throttle, you're racing or doing whatever it might be, and you let off, that charger can only take so much surge. And eventually, say on an S400 style charger, starts to beat up on the bearings, and it's not fun to have to pull the charger, put a rebuild kit in it, send it off, do whatever you got to do. And it's almost a necessity with these bigger singles to have this blow-off kit with it. It's easy to do while you're in there, putting the charger on.
Absolutely. There's plenty of room. Like you said, surge, that's the word that I was missing. Yeah, that's the main word, and that is what the blow-off valve eliminates. They're not overly complicated to wire. There's probably 4 wires. I can tell you exactly what wire to tap into that TPS signal for the Cummins. At least I'll be installing one on my friend's Duramax soon. They from stock turbo to big turbo to even twins. I mean, it's a nice feature. It sounds cool. That's just an added bonus.
Yeah.
But I've had mine on for 40,000 miles. Never had it leak. The guys at TurboSmart, the support is there. They're good people there, and they'll take care of you if you were to run any kinds of quirks or issues. As long as it's installed correctly, you won't have any issues with that kit.
And probably in those 40,000 miles, you never had any premature bearing wear or any turbo issues, huh?
No, I had that 42. I had, and I overdrove the crap out of that thing with all my different fuel setups, and it went 40,000 miles, and it never contacted the cover once. So that's with long hauls, drag racing, what have you. And this new 80 millimeter I have on there, bearings feel like brand new. So there's a testament to the blow-off valve. And not everyone, and this might not convince everybody, but I approve of it. So.
You see, I never ran one. I think when I had my truck, it was still early in the process, but working for a company that made turbos, and I got to see people who would surge them, it's not good. There's not good things that happen when those bearings take a beating. And back then I started to think, when these things were coming out, this could save a lot of people a lot of headaches and a lot of downtime.
I've sold pipes all the way from, the boost pipes all the way from Canada to, the Virgin Islands, all over the States. They all love them. I haven't had one complaint.
I'm going to make sure that we post some links so people can see just what these look like, because it really is a work of art. And I've talked about this with some of our other guests that build custom parts, and they have this belief that when they build a part and it goes on a truck, it needs to look as good as it performs. And it's hard on a podcast to convey that, but we'll make sure we get some pictures and links on our Facebook post so people can see what these look like. And we're all truck guys. We like them to look good. We want them to look as good as they perform. And,
absolutely.
And I know what you make is top quality parts.
Yeah, I mean the flanges that TurboSmart provide are high quality, and then I put them on some 304 stainless, all TIG welded construction, back purged, bead rolled, the whole bit. You got threaded NPT port for the boost reference and all that good stuff. It looks like a simple process, but the prep involved when you want a clean weld and you want a strong weld is what makes the parts and the welds look like the hashtag weld porn.
Yep.
Right.
No, absolutely. What about this second gen swap? I get a lot of questions about it, and people are definitely interested in why they should move the charger from the back of the head more towards the middle with the second gen swap. What are some of the benefits you've seen to it in performance and in practicality of switching that turbo location?
Performance-wise, you have all the pulses racing to that collector all at the same rate, whether it's the 1 and 6, the 2 and the 5, they're all coming together at the same rate, and it ultimately just creates a good velocity inside that manifold and keeps that, and you stay on top of the turbo better, and it drives that turbo better. I don't want to get too nerdy with the fluid dynamics of it, but basically it's just, it's a more efficient positioning of the turbo. And then as far as accessibility and all that good stuff, I mean, it's a lot easier to change out center cartridges or hot sides if need be, since it is not buried deep down in the engine bay. The intake's easy to change out or pull away if you're at the track and you need to diagnose why you have like an oil leak coming from the drain flange or, other stupid stuff that can happen. It's just a nice, clean way of mounting the turbo, and you could fit, anything from a 463 up to a 482 or, you know, a GT55, whatever you want, right there in that spot. With most manifolds out there, stainless, Steed, BD, ATS, all those, and still retain the stock battery box if you want that passenger battery still. Yeah, it's just the way to go. It looks good, and it performs, and it's proven.
Oh, definitely. And in your kits, what do you include in the second gen swap?
You get the whole deal. You get ARP hardware to mount the manifold to the head. You get, you know, I usually include a fleece oil drain. I make up my own oil feeds, -6, all high quality AN hose. You get my 6-inch aluminum intake with either the 6.7 flanges for the sensors or the 5.9. You get the 304 4-inch stainless downpipe that I've had a lot of people actually just buy those separately, maybe because of ill-fitting other brands. So they come to me and they're like, hey, I need a downpipe that fits. And I said, hey, you know, I guarantee this one to fit. They get it, they love it. I'd say pretty much everything you need. I can provide everything you need to get that thing. You won't need to go run to the hardware store for anything. You get the 4 to 5 adapter for the downpipe.
That's awesome.
You know, everything. You get it all. You no need to run to the hardware store.
Yeah, because a lot of times these guys, you know, we've all changed a turbo or done something in our garage on the weekend. You get some buddies over, get some beer or whatever. And if you're missing that one part, it can destroy a weekend, you know, and just to know.
Especially the one-off parts where you're like, I got to go to a parts house. I got to go to like the specialty parts house. Yeah.
Yeah, so the fact you have all that in there means when you get this kit, there are no, you know, part runs or anything like that.
Yeah, I was quite scared because I actually had a customer from the Virgin Islands. He bought a second-gen kit off me, and I must have gone through that box like 3 or 4 times before I taped it up because I don't know, you know, what kind of accessibility he has, and I just wanted to make sure he was taken care of. So.
Oh yeah, I had that one time with a guy in Russia. He ordered, I think it was a turbo kit, and I thought, you know, if anything has to be sent, it's not going to get there very fast. And so it was, I triple checked everything in that box, had someone else triple check it. I'm like, okay, it's good. So I know when it gets halfway around the world, he's got all the parts that he needs.
Exactly. Yeah. It's better to check it twice because it makes your life a whole lot easier as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And theirs.
You had mentioned earlier working on 2013 to 15 kits. What else do you have planned for 2016 for 5.9, 6.7 parts?
So what I have planned is increasing production. You know, we've got this whole project going now where we're going to take the fabrication and the diesel side to the next level. We have second-gen kits on the way that will, you know, boost with the boost tubes that fit great, blow-off valves if you want them on there. And basically, we're just trying to keep it simple. You know, we want to answer the calling. If any of you listening have something in mind that needs to be fabricated or machined, you know, bring your suggestions out there. I'm all ears. That's a testament to how much good stuff is already out there from other companies. It's like I just want to keep things rolling. I want to keep it simple for my side, but if I can bring another product out that these listeners want, I'm all ears. So that's awesome. We'll make sure, and any suggestions we get, you know, from the guys and the gals out there, we'll make sure and pass them along to you. For any of us that want to see, say, some sneak peek R&D pictures or some new things you got coming up, where's the best place for us to go and see what you're working on? So the best place right now is my Facebook page for AA Motor. Well, actually, it's AA Engineering, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna merge them together. It seemed I like the ring of just keeping everything all in one. It's AA Motorworks, AA Engineering for now. Check out all. I usually, if I come up with a new product or I'm prototyping something, I usually snap a pic and post it up. I do not have an Instagram, but that's probably a good idea. So, yeah, I'm excited for this year because this is all these companies are coming out swinging, and that's what makes this whole diesel industry so exciting. Is that every company out there is stepping it up, and we want to be right there with them. So
it's a lot of competition, and it breeds a lot of amazing innovations. And
it does.
Everyone approaches it a little bit differently. So as a consumer, you get to sit back, and whereas in the past there may have only been 1 or 2 options, now there's 15, and they all offer something a little bit different. And
absolutely,
there's all those choices.
Absolutely.
So we definitely look forward to seeing some of these kits, and like I said, we'll have some pictures in there for the listeners to check out and see what you're doing. We definitely appreciate you taking the time this afternoon to chat with us and share your story and talk about your product and what you got planned.
Yeah, I just want to, I really appreciate the opportunity. When you initially asked me, I was kind of taken back because I consider myself to be a little man here in this industry, but I have a passion for the sport, and I've made a lot of great friends, and continue to keep making friends in this in this horsepower game, not just in diesels, but I love it all, and I just wanted to make a big shout out to my fiance Ashley. She was quite excited for me to do this podcast. So,
well, we when we set out to build this podcast and do it, our goal was to talk with people across the whole spectrum of the industry. And it didn't matter how big or small or anything like that. There's so many amazing stories that need to be told. And I'd say prior to doing podcasts, it's really hard to be able to tell that story, even on social media or forums. And that's what we wanted to do. And, you were definitely one of the first people I thought of for what you build and the passion that you have for the trucks to be on here and share that story. So we appreciate that. We appreciate your service, your time, the help you've always provided me and anyone I've ever sent over to you. We definitely appreciate that.
Well, thank you. This is I like where this whole diesel podcast thing's going. I think it brings the the entry level guys or the guys just getting in, or even the guys that even the guys big in the game. They all get to hear everyone's story, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, man. You got a good thing going.